There she is. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Chiropractic Student Podcast. Today we are joined by Tom Greenfield. He's a chiropractor. I think it's in Wales at the moment, South Wales. He's going to tell us all about it in a moment. And I heard about him through Sophia, who came on earlier, and the Finding the Primary seminars and courses that you do as well. So we've got some fun stuff to talk about. First of all, Tom, thank you for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful actually to come and speak to you, Lewis. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I like picking people's brains. Like I get a lot out of these, and I think other people get a bit out of them as well. So it's always good fun to have a nice chat.
Awesome.
First and foremost, just like sort of a little brief history of yourself, Tom, sort of how you got into chiropractic, where you went to school, and sort of what you're doing now.
Yeah, awesome. So when I was about 3 years old, my first exposure to chiropractic really was my mum. She'd had 3 children in the space of 5 years, and heavy sneeze and low back disc herniation, from what I understand. And she went to see a local chiropractor in Sheffield, where I grew up. Ulrich Sandstrom, he's a bit of a celebrity in the sports chiropractic world. And I remember just waiting outside the office actually, and not really having any more exposure than that for the next 15 years. And I was a competitive swimmer, and I had a shoulder injury, which kept reoccurring. And, we had a physio as part of our team. I was stretching, I was doing therabands, I was diagnosed with a supraspinatus tendonitis. Tendinopathy, because it was chronic, but it just wasn't healing. So I went to see a chiropractor. And not only was I told that my body wasn't firing, but my adrenal glands were severely under pressure. So it really changed for me then. I thought this chiropractic there's more to it than just dealing with shoulder pain. And within like 2 months, I was swimming 10 seconds quicker than I'd ever been before. And I thought, wow, there's something in this. So I decided there and then to study chiropractic. Wow. And it was a choice between Bournemouth and South Wales. And I went for the open days, and I chose in the end to go to South Wales. So I studied at the Welsh Institute of Chiropractic.
Yeah. When did you study?
I first started in 2008, and I did the first 2 years, and I did about 3 months of third year. And I decided at that point that I was going to pursue my career in swimming for a year professionally. So I paused my studies at the end of 2011, and then pretty much for 2012 I was a professional swimmer for like 9 months, and then I decided to go back, and I finished off third and fourth year. So I graduated in 2014 from there. Yeah,
you've still been out for a good like 8 years. That's cool.
Yeah, it's gone quick though.
Do you still swim now?
I don't swim competitively, but I do it to keep fit and
to stay above the water.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's the best thing ever after a long day of seeing practice members, and just to get in the water. That's my place of peace.
Do you go in the sea?
I do occasionally, but I'm a bit of a fair weather swimmer in the sea, if I'm honest.
I went to see Sophia in the summer, and we went in the sea like at like 7 o'clock in the morning. We met up in South Wales and just went in the sea, and it was horrific.
But if anybody's listening to this, that is one of the best ways to get tuned into your power as a chiropractor.
It's liberating.
Yeah, 100%.
Like if you do any sort of intense breath work, you start to get that tingly feeling. As soon as you went in the sea, like it was sort of, because you have to almost hyperventilate to create like warmth in yourself, and then you sort of calm down, but you get that tingly feeling. It's really cool. And being in the ocean, it was good fun.
Absolutely. Well, it just brings you into that state of, this is all that matters in this second. And your body, you have to focus on what's most important, which is staying alive.
Survival instincts, yeah.
Well, that's it. You can literally feel that blood shunting from the peripheries, and it's going right to internal organs.
Yeah.
And it's like immediate. It's pretty cool.
It is fun. So what are you doing now?
So right now I am heading up the tuning room in Cardiff. We're a team of 12 now, practitioners in front of house, and really trying to create something unique within the world of chiropractic, and that keeps me pretty busy most of the time.
Well, that's kind of all right. That's a brilliant question for me to ask. What is so unique about the tuning room? What do you guys do different?
Well, there's a few things. I think the first thing is we wanted to create an all-encompassing journey for someone where they're going from, like, we call it stage one, which is like pain and suffering, and all they care about is the pain and getting rid of the pain.
Mm-hmm.
We want to take them on a journey, essentially educational, and make them aware that actually once we get rid of the pain, then it's about getting the function. Once we get the function, then it's about expanding their lifestyle choices, so maximizing their lifestyle. And when they've got that, then it's about, okay, well, what about your life purpose? Any expansion beyond that? And then once they get past that, it's about the impact in the world. So it's like taking them through the stages using chiropractic and other methods. So we use chiropractic, we do muscle work, we do personal training, we do breath work, we do network chiropractic, we do reflexology, we do cranial work, we do breath classes, we do sound baths, we do yoga. So it's really taking people through that journey of what they need, and hopefully impacting them in a way that when they do finish their journey with us, which inevitably will come one day, then they're in a much better place and they can affect the world in a much better viewpoint than it was when they first became in contact with us.
That sounds phenomenal. Where do I sign? That's
well,
really cool.
you're more than welcome to come down and have a look at what we're doing. But
That's really cool. So how long have you been doing this sort of route? Because straight out of uni, what did you do straight out of uni? That would be my first question.
Yeah, so I was really fortunate. I had it's really important. I think this is, like, I say this to everyone coming out of university, you have to have a good solid first job with a good tutor, a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people who come out of uni and set up on their own immediately, 2 years down the line, they're like 5 years behind someone who took a job with a good coach.
Yeah,
it's such a difference. So I was really fortunate that there was a tutor that worked at the Welsh Institute, and he was floor tutoring, and he sort of said, look, I've seen the way you handle yourself, and would you be open to coming and having a chat about a job? So I did, and I was really fortunate. I got shown essentially one-on-one coaching for a good couple of months before I started, and I worked in a clinic in Caerphilly for 2 years. I was so grateful from that experience. And I was thrown at the deep end because there was a chiropractor there that wasn't very well, so I had to take up some slack. And within the first 6 months, I was really busy, so loads of experience. But I started to ask a few more questions then, because some things were working really well and some things weren't working so well. And I've got a really inquisitive brain. I was starting to question why that was. And I didn't feel like I could get those kind of answers from the environment I was working in. So after 2 years there, I decided to embark on a journey of myself and travel around the world to shadow some of the most renowned chiropractors and pick their brains about what they were doing and what they've seen in their life. And at the same time, I was setting up the tuning room in 2016.
You were traveling and setting it up at the same time?
Well, yeah. So when I was setting it up, obviously it takes a while to get going. So I had the affordability of taking a week off here and there, and so I was sort of weaving that in. Absolutely.
So in terms of pivotal moments then, so you had that 2 years, that first job really helped you get to where you wanted to be. You started questioning things. What was the need for observing? Why did you feel that was necessary?
So, for example, I remember a very pivotal moment, but the question started when I had two people with the same symptoms. I delivered the same treatment and I'd have two completely different outcomes. One would get like super amazing results and one wouldn't. I'd be like, well, why is that? You know, and there weren't many other factors going on in their life which would be the reason for that. So at the time I started to dabble in applied kinesiology, or muscle testing as you might know it. And there was a guy that was coming in every month with a shoulder problem, and he'd get adjusted, he'd get treated, and then he'd be great for 3 weeks, and then he'd come back and say, oh, my shoulders, you know, it's not right. And every month we'd do a shoulder adjustment, and I just thought to myself, this is very cyclical, you know, this can't be right. So I started dabbling in a bit of AK, and my tests were showing me that it was a TMJ problem causing a shoulder weakness. So I thought, here we go, let's try this month. He's adjusted his TMJ. He came back a month later and he said, do you know what, my shoulder's been fine this month, and we tested it and it was strong and he wasn't in no pain. And he came back the following month and it was still the same. And that was essentially the start of finding the primary. And I went on a couple of courses that really opened up my mind to further in that, and I watched a couple of other chiropractors and osteopaths that really helped me with that.
Who are the pivotal ones that you would recommend people sort of look into if they're interested in this sort of thing, and the courses as well?
Absolutely. So the first one is a guy, he used to be a chiropractor. He's now not registered as a chiropractor, but he is a phenomenal chiropractor. His name is Simon King, and he's based in Berkhamsted near London. And he does run seminars called Afferent Input. And then the second one, which is not as local, was an osteopath I got recommended to go and see in Vancouver. And he's a notorious osteopath for dealing with concussion injuries in the NFL, when like the players are finished and they're done, and then they go and see him, and he just like, he was described as a bit of a wizard.
Love those kind of people.
So yeah, he was in his 80s. I went to see him. I think he's retired now, actually. But
How
his
dare
name
he?
is,
How
I
very
know,
dare he? I know. So selfish.
What
was his
name? I
name?
managed to extrapolate a good lot of information from him. His name was Dr. Don Grant, and he was based out of Vancouver.
Was that Grant or Brant?
G-R-A, yeah, Grant, Grant.
Oh, interesting. And so his main focus was like concussion rehabilitation?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, he was renowned for concussions, but his sort of ideologicals and philosophy and his care, a lot of it was based around the adrenal glands and how it was linked to the fascia and the cranials. And his tests would basically allow him to diagnose and prognose what would needed to happen. So like some of the tests he was saying, this person's not allowed to stretch yet, or this person's not allowed to do cardio yet, or this person's not allowed to do high intensity yet, or strength work.
Oh, wow.
And the difference was like, yeah, it was incredible.
I've not heard of it, or my brain is maybe not switched on at the moment, but you mentioned yourself as well with adrenal, it was something to do with your adrenal glands. How is that testable? What?
So this is what it boils down to, and this may seem very reductionist, but I'm going to say it because it might shock people, but anyone coming into your practice with a chronic problem is 100% of the time they're going to be in a sympathetic dominant state.
Yeah.
And if they stay in a sympathetic dominant state for long enough, they eventually will go into adrenal fatigue.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just that setting off the sympathetic stress response day in, day out, and then you're going to get a whole load of symptoms from that. And if you look at any diagnosis, that's essentially what it is. It's inflammation of the body because somebody has been in a sympathetic state.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's short term, the body can obviously recuperate. But if that's long term and it's repetitive, eventually the adrenal glands are going to get fatigued, and then they're going to go into exhaustion. You're going to have a whole list of symptoms.
And is that, so these other courses and people that you saw, is that what sort of sparked the interest for finding the primary? Like, how did that come around then?
Absolutely. And finding the primary is about making us more certain and making us more effective at delivering the time frame and the results that we're going to deliver. So from the tests that we do, it's a very simple way, a protocol to follow to allow us to be like, right, this is the place we need to start for maximum reorganization of this system in this moment.
So
rather than
is it a protocol you teach or a technique, or what is it?
Primarily it's a protocol to show people, first of all, how to go into themselves for fine-tuning and picking up things.
Yeah.
And second of all, when we're assessing a person, where is it that we should start working first for maximum reorganization and minimal effort? Because 100% of the time, if somebody's in a sympathetic dominant state, where do those sympathetic nerves come out? So thoracic spine. So when someone's in a sympathetic state, 100% of the time, their thoracic spine is going to be locked. Now, you could argue that the thoracic spine is locked due to sympathetic facilitation, and that's trying to stabilize the body. So to unlock that area in that moment may cause destabilization. It may do, but this is where the tests come in. And rather than going, that segment's blocked, I need to move it, you're asking a question. Yes, that segment's blocked, but is it blocked because it needs to be in this moment? Or is it blocked because of another reason?
Ooh.
I know, and that allows us to choose when to adjust and when not to adjust. And that is the key here, because if you can identify when not to adjust, you're not going to cause you're not going to cause a relapse. You're not going to cause a massive hit of inflammation that's not needed, and you're not going to.
Yeah. It sort of reminds me of, I can't remember who said it, but like the best thing about, or the best trait of a chiropractor is to know when not to adjust, or something like that. I can't remember who said it. It's a quite famous quote that people use sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, where are you at now, Lewis, with your studies?
Oh, I'm finished. I work in Epoch in Lincoln with Tom Waller.
Oh, awesome. So you've probably had this, or correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I've been there many times.
Well,
You deliver an adjustment, particularly in the thoracic sometimes, and you do it, you're really present with it, and you do a good impulse, and it just feels like, you just feel like you've just gone into a brick wall.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's happened there? Like, what's happened? And you might even go a second time and it feels the same again. And you start questioning yourself and you're going, God, was that a bad adjustment? Like, I thought but in the moment, the body's actually put its armor up, it's put its guard up, and it said, you know what? You're not going through there today. I'm in protect mode. And I think we've all probably received an adjustment like that as well.
So and then you would be searching for something else, or just leave it for today, kind of thing?
I'll be searching for something else. Yeah. So,
and that's where the testing.
That's where the testing comes in. So let me give you an example, and this is just one example of many. But woman comes in last week, 30 years history of digestive issues, bowel problems, colitis, heartburn. She's now on lansoprazole and ibuprofen for the stomach. And then she's on long-term blood pressure medications as well. Comes in complaining of thoracic stiffness, shoulder pain. Have you had any care before? Yeah, I've had loads of care. I've had acupuncture, physio, chiropractor, osteopath. Yeah, all this. Okay, what do they do? Yeah, they do. They try to get it moving. She's like, but nobody can get my thoracic spine to click. It just feels like it needs clicking, but nobody can get it to click. So I tested the whole thoracic spine from T1 to T12 on both sides was just rigid. You felt those traps before where it just feels like, oh. Anyway, we identified that a primary in her situation was a blocked ileocecal valve. Now, if you haven't heard of that, do a little bit of research, but it's essentially the valve between the small and large intestine. When it goes into spasm, it creates a whole plethora of compensations. So yeah, that was the primary on that day. We released the ileocecal valve and did nothing else. And this is a woman that goes to the toilet once every 3 days. And in the 2 days between that and the next visit, she went to the toilet 3 times, had no heartburn. And then when the thoracic spine was palpated again, like 3/4 of it was moving. What did I do then? I identified there was a thoracic segment that did want to be adjusted, and I adjusted it, opened out, and her face was like, wow, I've never experienced that before. Now, if I'd have tried doing that on that first visit, no matter how good an adjustment I would have done, it would have been like trying to break that brick wall with a pencil.
Oh, this is super interesting.
Yeah,
You know what's
and
even more annoying as well is I know you've got a course coming up and I'm away, and I really want to come on to a course, but I'm busy at that weekend as well.
Yeah, well, there's going to be more in future, and I think the more momentum we build with this, I think the more professional rapport we're going to get within all circles, because I've often found the biggest slur against chiropractors is, oh, they just want to click everything, or they yeah, absolutely. So it takes us away from that model of, well, we will adjust it if it needs adjusting, but if it doesn't, then we're going to look for what that person needs most in that moment. And sometimes it can be a conversation. That could be the adjustment.
So going back to that lady then, did you adjust her on that first visit? You literally just released her ileocecal valve and that was it, no adjustment given? Well, you could argue that is an adjustment, but
that is definitely an adjustment.
Okay.
She had to lay down on her back for 15 minutes, heavily breathing. There was a huge neurological reaction, tingling in the hands and the feet. She got up and had cold sweats. Yeah, there was a massive adjustment. They're the kind of adjustments where you go, wow, that neurology has changed. And then she comes back, and when you see that, you know you've affected the nervous system.
It's super rewarding as well, I bet.
Oh, it is. It's massively rewarding. But now I'm in a situation where when I recognize that, I can say, look, I'm going to press on this valve. In the next few minutes, this is exactly what's going to happen.
Mm.
And the amount of trust and rapport that builds up. And they come back and they said, oh, yeah, you told me I was going to have a good evacuation. You told me I was going to have a headache. You told me I was going to sleep like a baby, all these things.
Yeah.
And, then all of a sudden the care plan becomes irrelevant. They're in.
Yeah. They trust you. Yeah. Oh, it's super interesting. We've gone a tiny bit off piste. I'll kind of bring it back to the general structure a little bit. Are there any other sort of resources that you might recommend to a student that maybe perhaps got you really pumped for chiropractic in the first place? I know you've had a bit of a history with it, but were there any pivotal books or people that you spoke to or lectures you heard that really made things go, wow?
Yeah, there's a couple here, I think. And two of my biggest coaches, I think, they're both quite popular on YouTube, and I picked them up. So the first one is Dr. John Bergman.
Yeah.
He's a chiropractor in California. He's probably done an hour health talk on every single medical topic known to man. And you watch that, and he actually wrote a book called How to Reverse Arthritis. Ooh. And when I picked the book up, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Is that possible? And then I read it and I was like, I don't know if it's possible. And I watched some of his videos and he was saying the same things. And I thought, I've got to go and see this guy. So when I went over there, I was looking at his x-rays and his re-x-rays. And yeah,
it's possible.
It is. I was like, yeah, God, there's people telling me of their personal stories of it. So that'd be definitely the first one, Dr. John Bergman. And the second one is a bit more of a maverick, is a guy called Dr. Nelson Vertanzi. and he coined a technique called GPA, which is gravitational pattern alignment, which is it's just a phenomenal technique. Unfortunately, Dr. Vertanzi passed away last year. He had prostate cancer, which was really quite devastating. I'm not sure what's happening with the teaching of that technique now, but there's only two qualified practitioners of that technique in the UK.
Wow.
And I'm one. The other guy is Ross in London, and but you can learn a lot from watching his YouTube videos.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have a little look later.
Yeah, and the last thing I just want to say about that, Lewis, is something that I didn't do until probably 5 years after graduating, and I'm not embarrassed to say that because that's what it is. But the 33 principles of chiropractic, I think they're not really taught in school, and any students or recent graduates might look at it and with a pinch of salt and say, okay. But I just implore you just to read them, write them out, and see if you can feel into it, and if you notice anything that might spark your interest.
I
Because
agree. Like I dibble in and out of them, and until third year at uni, I didn't actually know there were 33 principles.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends probably still don't, like, who are in chiropractic. But
yeah, and they're not just principles of chiropractic, really. They're principles of life and the universe and like physics, and it just is. And like as the more grounding you get in those principles, like the more that you can apply that to every part of your life.
well, I always say to people, like, chiropractic is the study of all things natural. It's the philosophy, science, and art of all things natural, and then it's delivered with an adjustment to subluxation. But it was first and foremost the study of nature, natural things.
Absolutely. You know, my favorite one, I know this might sound silly, but my favorite one is there is no process that does not require time.
Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah, but and a caveat in brackets, only when applied to matter.
The whole like force, matter stuff, like intelligence, like it always twiddles in my head. Sometimes I still don't fully understand them. I'm still like trying to get the process, but like without matter you cannot put a force, and without intelligence there is no structure to matter. Oh, it's all such a weird little loop that they're in, but I need to learn it properly. But it's getting
absolutely. There's some of the principles we go through on the first morning of finding the primary because they're so integral. It's so integral. But yeah, you're right.
So
Without
go on, sorry.
I was just gonna say, without intelligence, matter could not exist. But without matter, intelligence could not be expressed.
Is that one of your own, or is that one of the principles?
No, that's just me spitballing there, I think.
That's just me on a Monday night, man.
It just came to me when you were talking about that then, but I just think it's a really good way of thinking about intelligence and matter, that you can't have one without the other. And they're both as equally as important. But I think especially in school, we focus so much on the matter.
Yeah, literally. It's literally just make things pop.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard BJ's quote when he said, "If you're all matter, and never mind, and if you're all mind, never matter."
You need to have that equal balance between the two.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. And to be fair, throughout the whole thing, you've answered most of my questions, to be honest, Tom. In terms of if people want to get in contact and maybe come see the clinic or even one of the seminars as well, how can they get more information about all of those things?
Absolutely. So we've got the website, findtheprimary.com, and we're on Instagram, Finding the Primary. You can message me directly on Instagram, Tom Greenfield.
Yeah.
And the students out there as well, like as part of the tuning room, we do student classes. They're really early in the morning. They're training, like we go deep training. It's 6 a.m. and
that's the
just
best
come
time.
along. Absolutely. Get out of bed, come down. We do a little physical body warm up. We do some intense breath work, and then we go in on the adjustments. We practice. The students that come regularly, they evolve, and it's like there's probably 10 or 12 chiros in and around Cardiff that come, and then all the students are welcome as well. So you come along to those. There's 6 a.m. on a Thursday or Friday morning, depending on what we're doing. So message me for the details about that. We've got finding the primary dates coming up as well. We're actually doing one this coming weekend in London.
Yeah.
And then we're running one in Cardiff in December. And next week we are going to launch the dates for 2023.
Oh, amazing. All of that will be out this will go out in like 2 weeks. So that would be perfect. Like, they'll miss the London one, unfortunately. Sorry, guys, but it will go live ready for the December one for sure. Oh, amazing! Awesome. I need to get up super early and get from Lincoln to South Wales on a Thursday morning.
That's going to be a bit of a commute for you there, Lewis.
It might be. Oh, amazing. Well, I'll pop all the links to everything in the show notes and everything. So I just really want to appreciate the time, and I love it when people say yes to coming on these podcasts, because it's just building up the knowledge for the students in the future, and it's really helpful to hear it from like chiropractors who have been and done it for a while. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And just let me say to you, like, well done. And I just want to acknowledge and honor you for doing what you're doing, because you are evolutionizing. You're taking the professionals to another level. These podcasts are the ripple effect of this, what you're going to do, and the karmic effect that's going to come on you. Yeah, I'm really, 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 really impressed and proud of you. Well done, mate.
Cool. Thank you.
Well done.